Hi, Christina. Hi, Ruth.
Hi,
Hi,
Rebecca.
ladies.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, nice to see you.
It's so nice to join you because I've watched your chats, and what I love about it is just so organic, and it's just two friends chatting who have a lot in common. So I'm really thrilled to be here, and thank you for inviting me to join you because I think we're all in the same boat, aren't we? We're all single mums. We're kind of
Yes,
trying to feel our way through and dealing with the stuff that's gone on before and trying to do the best we can for our children. And then, yeah, Rebecca, you're talking about money today, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, we're all single moms. Christina and I, we meet every week to talk about just stuff, like stuff about life and how, trauma affects everything, in our decisions, in our parenting, in our financial choices, in our relationship choices. And these conversations are very healing. So with these conversations, we hope to bring healing to everyone who listens to us. And we're happy that you got to join us today, Ruth.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's great. I think we need to speak up more, actually. I think there's a lot of women who feel they are possibly going through it alone and they don't have that community, that support that they need. I mean, I certainly felt completely on my own. Although I did have a relationship, and I can explain a bit about that if you like, but um, at the end of the day, it's just you and your kids, and your ex comes and goes at various times, and sometimes he dictates things, as in my case. But it's really kind of overwhelming, isn't it, to go from a team, if you like, however dysfunctional the team, to suddenly find yourself responsible for everything, whether it's the rent, the bills, the school uniforms, the organizing play dates, the holidays. Gosh, I mean, I really struggled actually to deal with all that.
absolutely. It's very overwhelming, and it's kind of like you build a life together with someone, and then you're trying to separate that life, and it's just a very brutal experience. And you think that you hear about divorce, but it can be a very long process and a very painful process, and it's a huge change. It's like a 180 that your life takes on, and then all of a sudden you're alone. It helps if you have family to support you or someone to support you. And obviously, I talk to a lot of single moms. It helps if you're financially stable, if you have a little bit of money. If you're struggling, which a lot of single moms struggle, especially when they're going through their divorce and a little bit after their divorce until they get settled and land on their 2 feet again. A lot of them struggle financially, and that makes it even harder. There's no kind of cushion there to support you. So a lot of single moms are working at 2, 3 jobs, and they've got the kids, and they have no support, and they have this ex-husband, which it's like almost deliberately tries to make their life even harder. So I mean, single moms hustle, right? It's a whole different ball game for us. So I
Well,
really, really relate.
it's crazy that you mention all those things, Christina, because all of that just sounded like my entire marriage. There's nothing lonelier and more and more depressing than being a single mom while you're still in a relationship, while you're still married to someone, right? While this person is by your side. And like you said before, Ruth, however dysfunctional the team, there's a saying that says there's no I in team. My experience is that my team always had an I and me in it. I was everything, and I know that there are a lot of moms out there in different situations. There are different forms of abuse, right? But there's this type of abuse or this type of relationship dynamic in which one person just basically does everything. It's the financial, the emotional, the everything, the carrying the weight of the relationship, the educating the children, taking care of the home, and working the 2 and 3 jobs to support the family. And that was me. So the best thing that ever happened to me was separating. That was like the most joyous thing for me. And I was thrilled. And I know that there are many women out there as well that is like, should I be celebrating that I'm actually getting divorced? I mean, this is supposed to be depressing.
I actually heard on some of the groups that a lot of women have divorce parties after they like have this divorce. You know how you have a wedding party? They have like a divorce party because they're so happy that they're free. Not all of them feel that way, you know, but yeah, I was gonna have a divorce party too, but I didn't get around to it.
I mean, I didn't have a divorce party, and there's definitely lots of healing involved. I can't deny, and you and I have spoken about these things before in our previous chats too. There's so much healing involved. There's so much trauma in those dynamics, you know, and so much healing that has to take place even after the separation. I mean, you know, after the separation is more of like, okay, I'm really alone now. Like now I'm really on my own. There's a bittersweetness to that. There's like a sense of relief that you're no longer carrying like this baggage, this dead weight on you of this person that wasn't contributing or this person that was financially abusing you. But there's also this sense of, oh my gosh, like I was codependent. I was dependent on at least relying mentally that there was somebody near me, as dysfunctional as that was, but at least that feeling of somebody was there, you know, and now it's not. And that is there is a root to that. And you and I have spoken about the root being childhood trauma before, and it's getting into that root, getting into the root of that feeling of that desperation. And this is what I hope that these chats bring up to people that are listening. And the fact that, yes, it's bittersweet that you're divorcing. Yes, it's great that, you know, now you get to experience these. And yes, it's difficult to be a single mom and have to financially support yourself and your children, whether you had that experience before or not. But you know, at least you know you're in a position now to heal all those deep wounds that come from childhood.
I think there's a lot of truth in what you say, Rebecca. I struggled. I was in the fortunate position of not having to work when I divorced and moved out of the family home. However, I felt that I wanted to contribute because my children spent a week with me and then a week with their father. And whilst it wasn't in my game plan, you know, the child psychologist said that that wouldn't be good for the children. They'd be better to be based in one place. And I suggest the mother, he said, and the father, you know, have every other weekend and all that kind of stuff. But my ex being my ex, he was very, very controlling. He still is, and insisted on 50-50. So I thought, well, I need to get my self-worth back. You know, my self-esteem was really low. And I think probably a lot of women struggle with that, even though there's a joy and a certain amount of celebrating of finally being free from this burden of being, you know, connected to somebody who is not serving either the relationship or you as a person or as a father. You know, I struggled with finding my place in the world. And so I tried to start a couple of businesses and they failed. And that kind of compounded that feeling I had of, well, if I'm not being a full-time mum and pouring into my children, which I was happy to do, then what is my purpose here? And, you know, how can I gain my self-respect back? Because I had been a career girl before I met my husband. And I had decided when I was like 20, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have children. So I ended up marrying and having 6 children.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it was full on, and we traveled a lot as a family. So I've been used to this really full on, full paced, you know, go kind of lifestyle. And all of a sudden I'm in one place and thinking, well, who the hell am I? And what am I supposed to be doing with my time? And, what can I do that will, give me my self-worth back, and how can I help other people? And it was a real wake-up call when what I thought was going to work didn't. And then I was with another man after my divorce, and we set up a business that was actually, we started with nothing and just opened the doors. It was a French bakery and patisserie, and we were on the wrong side of the tracks in town, and nobody from the good areas wanted to come and visit us. But because we had such good products, the word got out, and people started to come. So it started to build up and build up and build up. But then we got sabotaged, and it's a long story, but basically we lost everything. I lost everything I put into the business. It got, taken by the liquidators and put into the high court. My business partner at the time went back to France. He was French, and left me to deal with the courts and the liquidators and wrapping up this business and all the legalities. And I can't tell you, having been through the courts for 3 years with the divorce, dealing with that on top was just, I thought, if this does not break me, then I'm okay. But there were times when I thought, I don't know if I can cope with this, because I was completely on my own then. And, I was terrified that the courts would come after me for, this, that, and the other fee. And, it was, I can't tell you, it was just the worst time, especially as I've been through a really, really acrimonious divorce and had to live in the family home for 3 years with my ex, which was, I am writing a book about it. The things that happened were just horrific.
Wonderful. I want to read it. There's a saying, or I don't know where the saying came from, but actually probably came from the Bible. It says that God doesn't give you a burden that you can't carry, right? So I've, in part of my healing process, there are different waves, there are different levels of your healing. There are different stages. And I'm up to that stage in my healing process, which I think is the epitome, where I am thankful for all of those experiences that have happened to me, because had it not been for those experiences and how I came out of them, I wouldn't be here right now helping women heal themselves and heal their lives and make better financial decisions and balance themselves, in the different areas of the foundational areas of having a successful life, which is mindset, emotional, organizational, self-care, and work-life balance. Those are the things that I focus on in helping women as a coach, so that, when there's an imbalance in any of those areas or multiple of those areas, we can study them and find, what the blockages are, and help through that healing process so that they're able to make better financial decisions and have more profitable businesses. So, with that said, what an amazing story you have. And absolutely, I think you should totally capitalize on it and create a book, not only for yourself to be able to heal through that process of sharing that story, but to help so many other women see what resilience looks like firsthand, because women are resilient.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure Christina will agree as well. I think it's only when you go through a really tough experience and a challenge, and you just have to put one foot in front of the other. You just have to keep going, especially if you have children, especially if you have financial obligations. You can't give in, there's no option. And that's how I viewed it, just one day at a time, one step at a time, one thing in front of another, and not getting lost in the enormity of everything. And at the end of it, I mean, everything is a process, so there's never really an end. But I think there's a point you get to in that journey where you look back and you think, wow, how far have I come? And how have I grown as a person because I've been through all these challenges. You know, I think I'm grateful too for all of it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And there's an interesting quote from somebody, I don't know who said it, but basically the premise is if everybody sat around in a circle and we all put our problems in the middle, nobody would want to take anybody else's problems. You'd accept your own back. So own it. You know, these are your challenges and you're here to experience them for a reason. So I think if you can acknowledge that and accept what is happening is ultimately going to be to your benefit, because you'll have wisdom, you'll have the benefit of hindsight. You'll see that no matter what terrible things happened, there has to be a silver lining. There has to be some good that comes out of it. Otherwise, you know, what's the point of life? What's the point of being here? What's the point of it all? So for me, there's always that hope and that belief that no matter what we've been through, it will all become to our good. You know, it'll add to who we are as women. And as you said, Rebecca, we are all so strong. We don't actually realize it until we are in a bad situation or a challenge that we'd rather not
overcome it, until we get out of it, and then we're like, oh my gosh, I just went through that. Holy cow, I'm so badass.
Yeah. When you're in the middle of it, when you're in the middle of the storm, you don't have clarity and you think that you're actually drowning or failing, but it's actually not the case. So if you could, you know, make those choices for yourself. And one of the things that was incredibly helpful, even though I was on my own, were my children. And that was actually what got me up in the morning. I could not allow myself to just give up. That was not an option for me. So the minute that the children come into the picture and you're like, oh, I have someone else to take care of. It's not just about me. It's not just about poor me. Look what, you know, that victim kind of thing that we all do sometimes. Woe is me, poor me. They got me up in the morning and they gave me indirectly strength to make the choices that I did. And once you're actually, you know, day by day, one day at a time, going through it, there just all of a sudden there comes a day where you just kind of, you know, those moments where you're just like, wow, everything's actually okay. And you kind of have this kind of like helicopter view of your, you know, of your situation in your life, and you realize that, you know what, I'm fine. I was fine then, I'm fine now, I got over it, and actually I'm stronger. So like what Rebecca said, it's you know, kind of the universe or higher power, the divine or whatever, you know, each of us believe in. Nothing is given to us that we can't handle. And ultimately it is for our growth. And without growth, which life is about evolving as humans and growing, it actually becomes very mundane and very kind of like, I heard this coach I used to work with years ago, your soul dies. It kind of just dies if there's no change, right? Even though it's painful. But one of the things that I am very grateful for, it drove me to my purpose. It brought me to my purpose. And I struggled all my life with relationships, not just romantic relationships, every type of relationship, like friendships, family, work colleagues, before I got into coaching. And it was that area that I wanted to kind of give away what I was taught by others and by other programs and by therapy. And it, you know, that's what I got out of it. And that was a gift, to be able to be a relationship coach and help other women that are struggling and, you know, going through the pain of it all. And yeah, I'm super grateful as well.
And I think that what you're saying and what we're all saying in terms of finding that sense of purpose Like we don't understand as we're going through it, and we're taking it one day at a time. But once we get out of it and we look back and we say, oh my gosh, like I went through hell and now I don't want any other woman to go through this hell. And I want to help people, or I know exactly who I am now. I know exactly what I want. I know what I don't want. And what I want is the opposite of what I don't want. So now I know what I want, right? So with that experience, you find your purpose, you find what you love in whichever way, if it's helping people or if it's pursuing a career or whatever it is, just doing something that you love, to love yourself more. um there's some a beauty that comes out of pain. And all I can think about as you were speaking, Christina, is a seed. When a seed comes out of the fruit is nice and fresh, but for that seed to turn into a massive tree that gives fruit, first it has to die, it has to dry up, it has to wither, it has to break. And once that seed breaks, through the nurturing of the grounds and the water and the nutrients in the soil and the sunlight, all of that process, that seed has to break, and that must be a very painful process. But as now the seed breaks and a plant grows over time, of course it's tender and it needs time to grow and to be nurtured and again fed. And this is what we're doing through therapy, through healing, through processing of our emotions. But over time, now this little tiny seed becomes this massive tree, this unmovable tree that gives shade to the birds and to whomever comes near, and gives fruits and good fruit, so it feeds many others. So that is who we are as women who have endured traumatic events in life. And the question is, where are you in your process? Are you still that tender seed? Are you, breaking right now? Are you growing into this tender shoot, or are you now this massive tree that now is giving more fruit and is starting the process again? And the thing about also identifying where you are in your healing process is that it's not all about you, it's not all about us, because life, like, what's the purpose of this whole thing? Why do I have to go through this? And it's because life, we're all connected, all of us, every living being on this planet in this universe is connected. And so we all affect each other energetically, physically, psychologically, emotionally. We affect each other. So as we grow and bring life, we bring life to others as well. So that is why and I know we started this conversation with the intent of talking about money, but this is like, it's the root of it all. It is the root of it all. And it's how do you process that pain? How do you find purpose in your life? And then once you're aligned with your purpose, once you're aligned with your healing process, because I can't say that you're going to heal overnight. It's a process. But once you're aligned with the process and you can heal through your purpose, through your experience, through the day-to-day, through your children, then you are going to have the outcomes that you deserve, which is more money, more love, better relationships, more health, and all of the things in between.
Mm. And I wanted to say that what Ruth said about the self-esteem and the self-worth, which when you first come out of a divorce or when you're actually going through it, or even before that, my self-worth during my marriage, if you're in an unhappy marriage with a specific type of person, the self-esteem is already down from not the beginning, but I'm going to say, well, let's say 2 or 3 years later, it starts to chip away when you're with a specific type of person who may be highly controlling. I relate to that, Ruth. And slowly, it kind of gets chipped away. And that self-esteem and self-worth for me when I got my divorce was, I'm not going to say zero, it was -0. It was like -10. And I had to kind of rebuild that, like you said as well, Rebecca, step by step. I'm still building, and I don't think that the healing process ever ends. I think you mentioned something. It's a process. It's a lifelong process of just leveling up, kind of like a computer game. You just bump up to the next level, right? You get through all the obstacles and you bump up to the next level. And it's yeah, just growing. And I'm still growing, I'm still learning, and I still have, you know, a lot more to learn from, you know, other people and you guys.
Like I know that a lot of the moms that are out there listening to us are probably thinking, how did you do it? Like, what did you do to get out of that pain, of to feel, you know, to have more self-worth, or to make more money? Like, what were the things that each of you did to go through that process? I like to hear, like, Ruth, because I know your situation was pretty amazing. So I'd like to hear that.
I think I just I didn't consciously look for a strategy or steps that I could take, but I did go on quests. You know, I had coaches, I did programs, I went traveling, you know, searching for something that would give me some idea of what I'm supposed to be doing and who I'm supposed to be and what is it that I'm here to do. And so for quite a long time I was kind of lost, but I made sure that I was doing things that I wanted to do. You know, I visited Estonia, I did a speaking competition, I went to Peru, you know, I went on expeditions, and I did things that I would never have been allowed to do when I was married. And that allowed me to blossom and to grow in different ways that I hadn't anticipated. But, you know, you were talking before, Rebecca, about celebrating being divorced. And for me, I was just flapping my wings, you know, because I had been so restricted and manipulated and abused and controlled and shut down that it took me a while to just unfurl my wings again and to get a sense of who I am now, because I'm not the same as I was before I got married. So that took a while, but one of my biggest kind of realizations was, it was about 3 weeks before I was due to appear in the High Court. And by the way, I did 6 days in the witness box, which is absolutely the worst place in the world, because you are so isolated. You can't even talk to your legal team about how you're doing and what you should say and what you shouldn't say. Nothing. You are on your own. That is a very lonely place. It's like giving birth in public. You know, you're totally exposed, and you've got nobody holding your hand and mopping your forehead and saying, you know, it's all right, and just keep breathing. So about 3 weeks before I was due to go to the High Court, my mother died. And I had been delayed setting off because she lived abroad, and I had to get a car and get a ferry and drive several hours to the hospital where she was. And by the time I got there, she was already in a coma, and she never came out of it. So I sat with her for like 72 hours before she died. And I was really very, very fortunate that I was there when she died, and my sister was there as well. And so 3 weeks later, I was about to go to the High Court, and a friend of mine said, come on, I'll take you for dinner. So we went for dinner, and I didn't see him very often. He lived abroad as well. And he said to me, Ruth, he said, why are you so calm? He said, I don't really understand. You're dealing with all this awful stuff in the background with your ex and soon to be ex. You've got to go to the High Court. You've just lost your mum, but you seem really calm. And I said, well, I think what I've realized is that I'm grateful for all of it. And he said, why is that? And I said, because I know it's making me a better person. You know, I'd been too wrapped up in my own stuff for a while, and how I was feeling on and abused and neglected, and you know, it had been quite tough to deal with it. Like you said before, Rebecca, I was in that marriage on my own. That's what I felt. And there were a lot of incidents that happened that demonstrated that. So I'd been used to, you know, dealing with it myself. But finally seeing that I'd lost the one person that was always there for me, no matter what. You know, I could have fallen apart, but like you were saying, Chris, the fact that I had 6 children that needed looking after and needed me to be operational and the best mum I could be, didn't give me the option, the luxury of going, oh, you know, I've just lost my mum, I'm just gonna fall in a heap and, you know, cry for 3 months. You know, so I had to keep going, and I had to put on the best face possible for my children. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but I think you're both absolutely right. If you're a mother, you have to provide for your children. You have to be there. They're dependent on you. So I just realized, you know, that no matter what it is that we're going through, it's ultimately going to serve us, because now I feel like Christina and Rebecca, that I have to help other women who are in that position where they're in the dark, they're stumbling around, they feel like there's nobody out there who understands what they're going through. So I think it's so important for us to be able to use what we have lived through and say to others, you know, hey, you know, it's not that bad. I was there, I've done it, and just do it step by step. But to answer your question, Rebecca, I do think gratitude is the most amazing tool, if you like, because if you're in a state of gratitude, if you're truly thankful for all you have, the fact that your kids are with you, the fact that they're healthy, the fact that they have shoes to go to school in, you know, whatever it is, just a little tiny thing. If you're in a state of gratitude, then it sort of blocks out the negative. You know, it keeps you in an elevated place mentally and emotionally and psychologically. So it allows other things to come to you that maybe would have been shut out otherwise. So if you're going in a negative frame of mind, there's a downward spiral. But if you're looking to get out of it, you know, start with gratitude and you'll find the spiral goes up as well as down.
That's beautiful. I mean, I think that you hit the nail right on the head, and it's more of like what coping mechanisms can we have, can we obtain while we are going through this painful process. But one thing that I also want to point out that, you know, I think we've all kind of subtly mentioned, and it's the importance of putting ourselves first, even before we put our children first. And yes, like, you know, you can't just like throw everything into a heap and mourn for several months at a time, because you still have to function and take care of these human beings that are in your charge. However, I love, you know, the analogy of when you're in an airplane and the flight attendant begins to do that whole presentation with the oxygen mask and tells you, if you have a child next to you and the oxygen masks come down, you do not instinctively, you want to put the oxygen mask on your child first, right? Because they're hurting, they need to breathe, they're scared, you want to nurture them, while in yourself, like, you're not really paying attention to yourself. So the flight attendant says, no, don't do that. You first take the oxygen mask and put it on yourself first, because what's going to happen if you're not taking care of yourself and you're putting this oxygen mask on this child or on your children and you're just trying to help them, eventually you're going to pass out. Very quickly you're going to pass out, and now not only did you pass out, but your child no longer has somebody to hold the oxygen mask on them. So then eventually it affects your children. So there is an incredible need to give yourself love and care and attention and nurturing as you go through this process. And the question is, how do you do that? How do you balance that? And that is the tricky part. And that's what coaches are here to do, to help you figure out how to do that, how to do that in a healthy way. But it starts with you making the choice of seeking that help for yourself first.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that analogy. I always have that in my mind, the analogy with the plane, Rebecca. And I think for other women who are watching this, that are in it, that are not out of it like we are, we're lucky enough to have come out of it. But for women who are still going through it, I think the gratitude to be reminded of being grateful. And one of those tools was taught to me, and I still do it. I should do it more often actually, is to actually make a gratitude list and write down at least 10 things. Everyone has at least 10 things that they can be grateful for. And I remember I was working with a therapist back then, and I'm like, I don't have 10 things to be good. That's what the type of mind frame I was in. I don't have 10 things to be great. She's like, you have 10 things to be grateful for. Be grateful. She's like, make it really simple and start with the basics. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you have a roof over your head, right? I'm like, yes. She's like, you have money in your pocket? I said, yes. You have your children? I said, yes. Do you have a car? I'm like, yes. She's like, do you have freedom to go out and buy food, to put food on your table? I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's 6 things already. She's like, you can think of another 4. So the more you do it, it's like an upward spiral. So we need to take time out for the gratitude. I think that's very, very important.
Absolutely. And it can go, I read this in a book with I forgot who the name of the author is, but he said something along the lines of, when you can't think of the most basic things to be grateful for, you can start thinking about, like, this pen. I'm grateful for this pen because with this pen, I can write my feelings down. Just something as simple as that. I'm grateful for, this jacket because it's keeping me warm. Like, whatever it is, as simple and as basic as that, it's a start. Gratitude is such an immense coping mechanism to help you through the process and to give you the strength that you need to be able to move up. And I know that we started this conversation with, this is about money. What does this have to do with money? It has everything to do with money. And again, I'll restate that if you're imbalanced in any of these areas, if you're emotionally or relationally imbalanced, there's things going on in your life that are really distracting you from your purpose or from your goals, or keeping you from making sound financial decisions. While I was going through those relationship issues, after I couldn't think. There were so many opportunities that I had in front of me. There were moments that I had thousands of dollars in hands and I didn't manage it. I couldn't manage it. And it was only an afterthought. I was like, oh my gosh, I should have done this and that with that money. But in that moment, because my mind was so clouded with all of these issues, I could not function. I could not function at my full potential. So I couldn't make money. So part of my financial journey is going through this healing process. That's why when I come to, when I do come to my clients come to me and, they say, okay, I'm getting a financial coach. Like, she's going to help me make more money. And then I start talking about feelings. They're like, wait a second, why are we talking about our feelings? Why are we talking about childhood trauma and relationships and all this stuff? Like, why? Because if you're imbalanced in any of these areas, then you will see that financially. And if you're still making money, you're in despite of all these things, then I guarantee you're still not making your full potential. You're still not at your full potential. And so again, like, it's not just about your emotions, it's your mindset, it's how organized you are. I know that when I was going through all those things, I'm typically a very OCD person, very organized, but my entire house was in disarray. Like, all of my things, I had years worth of just like things piled up in corners, and it was really a reflection of how I was inside. So even taking the time to just clean out all the clutter, it just felt freeing. And those are other coping mechanisms. Like when you're cleaning out clutter and you're just like freeing yourself from all of that, you're physically doing something that you are also doing inside, emotionally and psychologically. So there's a lot of things that you could do to help you through this process, and we can go on forever, but that's what us coaches are there for, to guide you through these processes. And we'll have way more talks like these in which we break a lot of these things down little bits at a time. And we hope that you guys stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. I wanted to leave a note and say that for me, I think, and I think for a lot of other women out there, money, or maybe the lack of it, or the lack of maybe not reaching my full potential, it ties in with self-esteem and self-worth particularly. And I've come across this with a lot of women, that they don't believe they deserve to, or they don't believe in themselves that they have the capacity or the capability to make money. And that's something that I related to a while ago. So self-esteem, self-worth, and reaching, believing that you deserve, because the definition of self-worth is, I believe that I deserve what I want, without feeling guilt or shame. So yeah, I mean, there were moments that, like you said, if you were to hand me $1 million tomorrow, I probably would have no idea how to manage it. Mm-hmm. It would probably even scare me, mm-hmm. And that's another thing, like too much money. Some people are like, what do I do with it? So yeah, it's interesting.
Mm. Well, somebody said to me the other day, you can't make a decision if you're in a bad place. You can't make a good decision if you're in a bad place. So I think you're absolutely right, Rebecca. It's about balancing your emotions and and where your head's at, and your outlook on things, and balancing that with being grateful, but also being a little bit ambitious and going for what you want. But then you have to work out what you do want, so it's all a circle, isn't it? And it all feeds into each other. So yeah, I think this is a process. I'm still in the process, and hopefully I will be. Yeah. Yeah, but if this can help somebody, to realize you're not alone, it is going to be all right. You just have to believe in yourself, because you are stronger than you know. That's what I would say.
You hit the nail on the head. You're not alone. We are here for you. So you can reach out to us, hopefully if you made it to the end of watching this episode of Single Moms Talking, it's because it touched your life, and you can totally reach out to us through the comments and through the information that we leave in the description boxes below as well. So thank you very much, ladies. It's been wonderful having this conversation today with you guys.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome as always.
Thank you for joining us, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting.
Hopefully we'll see you again.
Yes.
Okay, bye, ladies. Until next time.